welcome to this week's episode of the Last Best Beer Show. My name is Ryan Newhouse. I come to you each week to talk about craft beer in Montana. It's probably the best job that's out in Missoula right now. I'm really fortunate to have it, and I'm excited that it is coming up to be Christmas. I really do like Christmas time. I like the cold weather. I like watching kids open presents, and it's just, I don't know, it's a nice time of the year. And it's always a good time. You probably get together with friends, or you're going to Christmas parties, and there's plenty to drink there, plenty of good beer. But if you're looking for some really good beer to have, there are a few things that I want to point out that are now available to you in Missoula, so definitely check it out. If you get down to Warden's Market and Deli, they are on North Higgins. They've got a great holiday selection of beer, including kegs. So if you have a last-minute Christmas party, or you know you've got a lot of guests coming over, get down to Warden's and check out their huge selection of kegged beer available as well. But if you're really just looking for an evening out, maybe you need a date night, go down to the Rhino. The Rhino has right now a selection of holiday ales, including Anchor Steam's Christmas Ale. Anchor's out of San Francisco, California, and we are going to be heading down there soon ourselves and sampling some of the many holiday beers that they have on tap right now. So there's plenty to do. If you're looking at getting it started with some home brewing, because we will be talking about home brewing in today's show, you can definitely find some cool little kits back at Warden's Market and Deli, or expanded kits, big 5-gallon carboys and all grain and extract brewing kits at Summer Sun Garden and Brew. So definitely a lot to get checked off on your list here as we approach Christmas. But right now we're going to get started talking with one of our local home brewers and talking about the Zoo City Zimmergists. If you're like me, you don't always just drink beer. Sometimes you want to try your hand at making it and making good beer, and maybe you get inspired by one of your favorite beers you've had somewhere. So a natural step for a lot of beer drinkers is to become a home brewer or a beer brewer, and then, of course, ultimately, maybe you even open your own brewery. This week, I have Marquez Ruiz from Missoula's Zoo City Zimmergist, local homebrew group, and he's in studio here to talk about homebrewing. Marquez, welcome.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I've been active in the Zoo City Zimmergist for some years now, and I probably brew a few batches of beer a year. Mm-hmm. I always tell people that I've now get to drink so much other people's beer that to drink my own stuff too, I wouldn't be able to move around much, but I always loved the process. So I don't know, tell me a little bit about yourself and kind of what got you interested in home brewing in general.
Well, I guess to start, I've been home brewing for about 8 years or so. The thing that kind of led me to it was, I think part of it was the financial aspect. After having a child and then wanting to drink good beer, and then seeing that it's a possibility, I just started watching YouTube videos and kind of checking stuff out and seeing what it takes, what equipment you need, and, just all that sort of thing.
Yep.
And it just kind of blossomed from there. And, once you start, I guess, you see the possibilities.
Yeah. I'm reminded when I wrote that guidebook to Montana Breweries, that came out a couple years ago. I remember sitting down with Paul Royce at the time. He was brewing for Kettle House when he was still in Missoula, and he's home brewer. Went to UM here, and he talked about the act of brewing. And his quote that has stuck with me to this day is that brewing can be as sciencey as you want it to be, or as at home in the kitchen, just throwing something together, cooking.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of cool. That's to me, home brewing is like, if you just want to try something, you can try it. Or if you want to get down and measure this and time this and like it's a science experiment, you can do that as well.
Sure. Absolutely. I'm there with you. I think so much of it has that artsy sort of feel where you can try so many different things and get so many different results. There's such a broad range of the styles of beer that you can just play with, but certainly there's that aspect of that science, controlling all those variables, temperature, time, everything across the board. Certainly people do get into that part of it as well.
Sure. Yep. And, it's a way that they test themselves, right? And especially if they're making the same beer over and over again, testing their skills, but also testing their equipment just to get to learn it. Now, with home brewing, there's a couple of ways that you can go about it. What I'm thinking of specifically is you've got the all grain home brewing, and then you've got extract brewing, and then maybe even more intro or one of those kits that everything's liquid and it's you're just brewing a gallon at a time. I don't know what kind of experience have you had in any one of those methods?
Well, I started extract brewing like a lot of home brewers do,
myself included.
Yeah, I think I went online and went to some website, read some great reviews, and bought myself a little kit and a little extract guy where you do a little partial grain. Certainly, that produces great beer. But I think progressively, as time goes on, as a home brewer, you kind of want to evolve the whole process, right? You want to try to get down into the nuts and bolts of it as much as you can. And I think certainly all grain takes it to that level where you can finally tweak those little things that perhaps you can't do in the extract brewing.
Yep. And just to give our listeners a visual description of that. So all grain is you're going to a store, say Summer Sun, which is our local homebrew supply store, and you're buying grain that looks like it comes out of a bulk container, like you're shopping at the good food store and buying bulk. And you're buying actually malted barley or sometimes wheat, and it's they'll crack it for you. They put it sort of like through a grinder to crack it up. And that's all grain. So you essentially cook that stuff, and then extract is like cans of syrup, right?
Right.
That work's been done for you, and it's just basically giving you a fermentable sugar.
Certainly, and I think some people do kind of stick with extract brewing a little bit if they have a time constraint as well, because extract brewing can certainly be a little bit faster than that all grain brewing method.
Yep. And then once you get your beer made and fermented, I mean, you got a couple, you can get into a nice fancy keg system, beer kegs and all that stuff, or just bottle it up. I don't know. Where are you at? Are you bottling, kegging?
Well, I'm kegging now, and I've been kegging probably for a couple years, and most of that is just lack of patience. I mean, when you go into bottling after your fermentation process is done, you bottle, and then you have to wait a couple weeks for the carbonation to really come to fruition. Kegging, you don't have to wait all that time, and I think it was my lack of patience that really kind of drove me to that. I mean, once you make something, you want to be able to try the final product as soon as you can, right?
That's true. I think for me, I moved over to kegging because I was tired of cleaning all those bottles, right? Those bottles. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Let's jump back and talk about Zoo City Zimmergist, Missoula's homebrew club, and there are several homebrew clubs around the state of Montana, I believe.
Certainly.
Yeah, Billings and Bozeman and up in Whitefish. But what has been nice for you as a home brewer? What have you gotten from being part of the Zoo City Zimmergist?
Well, I moved here a couple years ago, and Zoo City Zimmergist was actually the first brew club that I've been a part of, and I've been a part of them for a couple years now. I've been brewing for 8 years, so certainly most of that hasn't been with the brew club. When I joined Zoo City Zimmergist, it's fun to be able to join in, try a variety of beers that maybe I wouldn't have thought of making, or maybe they weren't a style that I necessarily enjoyed. But as you try those different things, you it broadens your horizons, I think. There's competitions, there's events, there's all sorts of things, different themed sort of meetings and things like that just kind of bring people of similar interests together, and that's just kind of fun.
You've touched on it, but I've always seen the Zoo City Zimmergist have one of the most enviable jobs at the brew fests that come in there.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us what I might be talking about there.
Well, so we have the opportunity to be able to be judges for these brew fests that happen downtown or whatever, wherever it may be. And, you sit back, you get a chance to try lots of good beer.
Yep.
So that's just fun. I mean, who doesn't want to do that?
I can't think of anyone. I've learned so much from just sitting in those, and I've done some judging with you guys, and it's getting around and talking about beer with other people who like to talk about beer, and I've learned so much about that. But let's talk about what you guys have coming up this weekend on Sunday, the 20th of December. You guys are having your Christmas club party.
Yeah, it starts at somewhere, I think, around 5 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that.
5 o'clock. And details are available on the Zoo City Zimmergist Facebook page. That's basically about your only connection. So if people want to get involved with the club, they can go to Summer Sun and ask them, or get on Facebook and search that and ask to join this group. It's private, but they'll let you in and you can start asking questions about homebrewing, right?
Yeah, and I think Summer Sun is definitely a great resource. I think most of the employees there are part of the Zoo City Zimmergist group. So even if you don't have a familiarity with Facebook or get online or anything like that, I think you can certainly talk to the guys down there.
Awesome. And going to these meetings, you guys do meetings, I think, about every other month?
We're doing them, trying to do them every month now.
Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And they're always open and inviting, and people can come down and meet club members and try their beers and talk about it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think anyone's welcome. It's always a compliment if somebody can bring, beer and food, because that's generally what everybody in the group brings. So by all means, I don't think people have to feel obligated. You can just kind of pop in, say hi, get to know people. You can stay for 5 minutes. You can stay for a couple of hours.
Awesome. Very good. And I know some of them that you also do some homebrewing, active homebrewing, and then you try it. But definitely encourage all the listeners to get out there, get on Facebook, check out the Zoo City Zimmergist, and get to know the club. And Marcus, I really appreciate you coming in today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Love craft beer and want to learn how to brew your own? Take this online course to get insider tips from Montana brewers and top secret recipes for local favorites.
It's Newstalk KGVO 1290 and 1015 FM with the one and only Last Best Beer Show with your host, Ryan Newhouse.
Thank you very much, Shireen, and welcome back to the Last Best Beer Show. We've had a very important year this year, 2015, as far as craft breweries go, and we just got news from the U.S. Brewers Association that at the end of November, we now have the most number of breweries we've ever had. Yes. Coming in at 4,144 breweries at the end of November 2015. That has topped the historic high. Yes, beautiful. Previously, the record was 4,131. And do you know, this is a little trivia, do you know what year that previous record was set in?
I'm going to say 2012.
Okay, wrong. You're off by more than a century.
Oh, gosh.
Yep.
No way.
Yeah. We're talking back in 1873. We had 4,131 breweries.
Those
Cheers
were the days.
for history.
Those were the days.
Yes.
The good days.
And if you can imagine, none of this stuff was really being distributed anywhere. You brewed the beer and people came to you and they drank it in your establishment or your bar. But now we're making a lot of beer and we're getting in a lot of places. But it's pretty darn cool. Also of note for 2015, we've set this record, but the rate at which breweries are opening right now are more than 2 a day in the United States. So more than 2 new breweries every single day coming up there. We have 15 states that are now home to more than 100 breweries. So 15 states in the U.S. have more than 100. We are at 62 in Montana, so we're creeping up there.
Come on, Montana. Come on. What?
Do it right. Do it right. Get more. Get more. Absolutely. So it's pretty cool. And what we're seeing right now, here's another trivia question. Do you know what the top beer producing state is in the country for 2015? Which state's producing the most beer?
Wisconsin.
Oh, that's a good guess, but wrong. It is Pennsylvania.
Oh, you know, I'm a big Steelers fan. And I know those guys down in the Berg, man, they drink that beer like it is water. Straight IV to them, I'll tell you what.
And you're saying you don't?
Oh, yeah, I do too.
Yes, yeah.
But I guarantee you, I've had beer from Pennsylvania. I've got many friends from there, and I would put Montana's beer up against them any single day. And most of them request cold smoke when they come over. So, I mean, I feel like we have a hand on them. So,
we just talked to Gary Gagliardi from Missoula Brewing Company, and he came over from Pennsylvania, from Stouts Brewing, and brought his tray to us. But yeah, Pennsylvania producing 4.1 million barrels of beer, and a barrel is about close to 33 gallons.
So maybe that's why a lot of people stay over there.
Yeah, that's
They're
right.
too drunk to leave.
I was going to say, maybe if you drink enough, it makes your team look better.
I don't even have to ask how many Super Bowls, but we'll get out of here. That's for a few more beers later, folks.
That's for a few more years. So, yes, well, congratulations to us and all of us for supporting 4,144 breweries. It's very exciting, indeed. If you are really looking, like we talked about, a lot of Christmas shopping happening this week, but maybe if you really, really want to splurge on the beer lover in your family, our neighbors to the west over in Vancouver area, we have come out with the most expensive bottle of beer available in the world right now. So it is one of Vancouver's oldest and best loved and most creative craft breweries released. It's what they're calling the world's most expensive beer, and it is called Glacial Mammoth Extinction, and it's by Storm Brewing Company. For a single bottle of beer, you're looking at shelling out $1,000. $1,000. If you just want to taste and you're in the area, you can make it to Storm Brewing Company, and you ask nicely, they'll give you a 1 ounce pour for $5. So James Walton, who's the owner and brewmaster of Storm Brewing, created this strong sour beer and then froze it twice at negative 30 degrees Celsius. And he basically took this liquid extracted from the ice and then put it in barrels for 2 years. And Walton, the owner, describes this beer as drinking more like a port wine than an actual beer. And it clocks in at an astounding 25% ABV, alcohol by volume, which is basically twice as strong as any glass of wine that you'll be able to find it. So it's labor intensive. There's a lot of ingredients that go into making a bottle of 25% alcohol, but still, it's $1,000. So I don't know how many of them were released or available, but certainly if you find that under your Christmas tree this next weekend, then you know you've done something right. So check it out, Vancouver Storm Brewing, and stay tuned. We're going to be talking about all things beer. Every week on the show here at the Last Best Beer Show, we spend a little bit of time talking about beer and food. But this week, I've got a special guest, and we're going to throw that out the window because Christmas is coming. Everybody needs a good gift idea, and we've already had Marquez from the Zoo City Zimmergist talking about home brewing. I wanted to bring in a dear friend of mine who I got to work with this summer to produce. Well, no, I didn't produce it. They produced it, but we put together an online beer course through the university. So I have with me Beth Berman, who is the marketing director for the University of Montana's School of Extended and Lifelong Learning program, which is also known as SEL, and they put together an online course all about Montana beer. So Beth, thank you for coming into the studio today.
Well, thanks for having me.
I had fun, and I consider what I had as like a little cameo, and I love it, into this online course. But let's sort of just talk about the idea of learning online and the courses that you all have available through the university, and because it's not just open to university students, it's open to anybody anywhere who has a computer, right?
That's correct. And it's funny to hear you say you just had a cameo, because we list you as the instructor of the course.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll take it. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, this course is open to anybody in the community or in any state or any country. Mm-hmm. It's only $50 to take, and it's an online home brewing course. But more than that, it kind of goes into the history and the economic impact of breweries in Missoula, and that's where you came in really handy. So
yes, I mean, it is the breweries. have such a viable business in Missoula and in Montana, and we got to get behind the scenes and film a lot of the breweries. Just let's talk about some of the breweries that you guys went to and filmed.
Yeah, it was really, really fun because we got to go and visit with all the brewers and some of our local breweries here in Missoula, and really kind of get a backstage pass to the process, all the work that goes into it, the ingredients, where things are sourced from. So we feature 6 different breweries: Centennial Brewery, Great Burn, Draftworks, Kettle House, Big Sky Brewing, and Tamarack, and we just really appreciate all those guys working with us.
Awesome. The Centennial you mentioned is probably Flathead Lake Brewing Company.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, no, they produce Centennial IPA, which is one of my many favorites of the IPAs. But I actually started growing Centennial hops just because I drank that beer.
Awesome.
I absolutely loved it. I've seen so much of this course and got to see the interviews that you've done with the brewers themselves, and that's worth its weight in gold right there, to see the people who make the beer, interact with them, have them talk about what the process is like and what it is to use local ingredients. But the recipes, now see, we had a home brewer on just a little bit earlier, but the recipes to me is an amazing asset to this course.
Yeah, I mean, it's $50. It's worth it just for those recipes. If you're just getting into home brewing, or if you want to try to clone one of your favorites, we have recipes for church picnic, clothing optional, cold smoke, moose drool, sip and go naked, and Centennial IPA.
Iconic. Those are all iconic Missoula beers, and Moose Drool is enjoyed in half of the United States. I mean, that is pretty much the Montana beer, as they say. But Cold Smoke, we got the most tapped beer in Montana, craft beer in Montana. It's pretty incredible. I think these are when we were putting these together, I think it's some of the first times that these brewers have given out this recipe.
Yeah, they were really, really open to it. Of course, your local home brewer is probably not going to make the exact same Cold Smoke that you can get at the Kettle House, but it brings people in the doors. And we actually did have one class participant who brought his Cold Smoke back to the Kettle House for them to try it, and they said might be better than the original.
Oh, wow. I need to meet that person. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so $50, and you get to, what's nice is it's a self-paced online course. So it's not like you have to show up at a particular time and day and go through it. So explain to our listeners what it's like to take an online course, and particularly this one. Okay.
Well, yeah, it's self-paced, which means you can do it anytime, anywhere. There's no start or end date. You can do it from home. You can do it in your pajamas. And the nice part is that when people think about online learning, sometimes they think about a boring, mouse click reading through a bunch of words. And this is a really multimedia course. We, through CEL, we do all the online learning courses at the university, help put them together. And so we have some really rich media, some great video, audio, kind of try to make it exciting for people.
Awesome. And it is. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on camera as well, but it was certainly a whole lot of fun. And again, people can give this as a gift, or they can sign up for it themselves. And there's nothing else out there really that will give you such an insight into the brewing community that we have in Missoula. I got to ask you though, going through filming, any particular memorable moments in any of these breweries? Or
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah. I definitely remember listening to you read through the script and doing such a great job. And, I'm not a brewer, so learning a lot of this stuff was interesting for me. And then I would bring the insights home to my husband and have him brew the beer, and then I got to taste it.
Oh, man, you figured it out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Where might this go? Would there be an option eventually that people could expand their learning at the University of Montana?
Yeah, I can't speak for the president or the provost.
Yes, of course.
But I would love to see this turn into a certificate program, and there are colleges across the country that are starting to do chemistry-based brewing programs. So I think there's room for this to grow, and even just this little program, it starts with kind of the extract process, but I think the next time we do it, we could do a phase 2 where you talk more in depth about the all-grain process and a little bit more into the bottling and kegging aspects.
Perfect. Yeah, Marquette Kez, who was in the show earlier tonight, was exactly talking about extract versus all grain and kegging and bottling and what that process is like. But we'll certainly rely on our listeners if you know the president of the university and the provost.
And I just got fired.
There you go. Yeah. Let's go see. But I think being involved with it and seeing the people and meeting some of the people who've gone through and taken the course, it is eye-opening, but it gets them charged to go and homebrew maybe for the first time or try a new recipe for the first time. And the online medium is perfect.
Right. You can pause it, restart it, go back and try it again. So you have those resources there for you. And like you said, it makes a great Christmas gift. If you're like me, you probably haven't finished your shopping yet.
Or started, maybe.
So combine this with maybe some starter homebrewing kits from Summer Sun. They helped us a lot with this course. So.
Yes, Summer Sun Garden and Brew right there next to DraftWorks.
Yeah, so it makes a nice little package.
Awesome, good. Well, tell people how they can sign up and how they can get it. Where do they go?
You can go to our website, which is umt.edu/brew, BRUW. And then you can sign up right online there. If you want to buy a fancy certificate for one of your loved ones, there's a number you can call and we'll get them hooked up and mail them the certificate for you.
Very good. We'll throw a link up on our Facebook as well, facebook.com/Last Best Beer Show. Beth, thank you so much for coming in and talking about beer with me.
Well, thanks for having us and thanks for participating in the course.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in for another great show. Last Best Beer Show. We come to you every week on Fridays and Saturdays. I want you to save the date. We're already looking into 2016. So our next Business and Brews is coming up on January 12th, 6 p.m. at Kettle House Southside, where we will get to explore the world of coffee and beer. We've got our friends at Kettle House and Black Coffee Roasting Company that will join together and talk about coffee, how coffee and beer were meant for each other. The cost is only $10, and all the proceeds will go to a local nonprofit. Of course, our good friends at Burn Street Bistro will be providing free food to those who can attend. There is limited seating. Please stay tuned to our Facebook page so you can find out how to register and where to register when it is time. So until next week, really appreciate you listening, and cheers, Missoula.
Love craft beer and want to learn how to brew your own? Take this online course to get insider tips from Montana brewers and top secret recipes for local favorites.